If this is your first time here, or your 101st time, we are glad that you are here. If you carry the weight of a weary world on your shoulders, or you entered through the doors with a song in your heart and a skip in your step, we are glad that you are here. If you are the loudest voice in the congregation, or the subtle hand behind the scenes, we are glad you are here. If you have failed once or 1,000 times, we are glad you are here. If you sing like the angels or mumble behind the hymn book, we are glad you are here. This community is what it is because of your presence. So welcome. Welcome into this virtual and live space of love and support, justice, compassion, fellowship, and worship. We are so glad that you're here. We light this chalice this morning across the technical divide for those in the church and those online and all of those in between, as a sign of hope and a sign of connection. This chalice is a sign of courage to move into that time of this and that, of not knowing. A chalice of patience and faith, of love and hope. It's a symbol in betwixt and in between all that has come before and all that is yet to come. This is our chalice of light, of love, and of hope. We come together in prayer just for a short while this morning to gather ourselves, to be in this space, to think of where we are in this moment. We have been gathered here by a sense of urgency or duty or the longing of community to be together today on this day. We are gathered to do our part in weaving a web of human community. Some of us have come in pain. Some of us have come in confusion, in sorrow, in joy, in faith, in that space of, I really don't know. We share this space of prayer for each other, wherever we may be this morning. A space that we can metaphorically touch each other's hand, give each other hand a gentle squeeze of reassurance and love. And as we look beyond our own community at the brokenness, the insecurity, and the unknown, we offer our prayers to those who are fearful and who are struggling right now. Those who in the coming months, the difficulties that are arising of everyday need, we ask with the courage to share what we have, to trust and embed ourselves into this loving community, and to help where we can. Our thoughts are wider still into the world as a whole that feels so broken. Mother Earth that struggles to keep giving. For those in Pakistan and beyond, in so many areas who are struggling today with the very basic provision of life and food and water. We offer our prayers of love and compassion. And we offer a prayer of hope for healing. And whatever we choose to call God, we may have many names or none. We ask in your name. So may it be. Amen. Good morning, everybody. I think you probably expected me to be in a 3-dimensional form. I'm in a 2-dimensional screen form. I'm so sorry that I'm not able to be there in person. It was a difficult decision, and yeah, I can sort of see you, but you're very tiny. So I'm waving to you all in church and on screen. And yeah, it's really lovely to be with you. And before we get into the service, I just want to say my blessed thanks to Kate and to those that I know have worked really hard this morning to make this service possible. It's not so easy to just turn on a button and it all makes magic somewhere else. There's been a lot of toing and froing, so my grateful thanks. I know that comes from the whole congregation to allow us to be together in a slightly different form. So thank you. We sing our first hymn this morning, which is number 14, and it's Bring Many Names. And I think the words will come up on the screen.
Glory,
exploring this morning the theme of the month, which is about holding space. And our first reading is from Lisa Kemper, and it's called Holding Space for Truth. The opening quote is from Audre Lorde. I have come to believe over again that what is most important to me must be spoken, made verbal, and shared, even at the risk of having it bruised or misunderstood. This is Lisa's story. There is a moment when all eyes turn to you. You may be the minister, the lawyer, the teacher, the surgeon, the florist, the cleaner. It happens 1,000 times in our life. But nobody forgets the first time. The first argument in court, the first class, the first cut, the first cleaning of a huge expanse of wooden floor. There is a moment after all the training and practice when we have to move out of the theory and into the real world. I was woken, she says. In the morning, it was still dark. There was an incessant beep. I was on overnight call as a hospital chaplain. I composed myself and went where I was needed. Somebody had taken a turn for the worse and wasn't expected to survive the night. There was nothing they could do more. All I could do was watch and pray. I had no medical experience, and the family that were coming to terms with their grief was so locked within it. After a while, the parents gave back their little child. All eyes turned to me, and they whispered, "Can you pray?" I had no earthly clue what to say. It was a profound gut-level panic. The knowledge that nothing I could say could alleviate the inadequate wrench of losing a child. There is a moment, she goes on to say, it was the moment I learned to tell the truth. A space opened in my heart and in the room, and the light of truth shone in. God, we are lost, I prayed. I knew I couldn't fix it. All I knew was that I could name what was happening. I don't remember what I said anymore in that night, but what I learned in that moment has remained the foundation of my ministry. To name and to hold space, to speak the truth as best as I understand it, and hold that space for it to bloom. Sometimes it's not a huge amount of words, but it's always the truth. Words by Lisa Kemper. We sing again number 35 in our hymn book, Find a Stillness. Our second reading this morning comes from Heather Plett, What It Means to Hold Space. These are her words. I was looking after my mother. I didn't really know anything about how to support somebody in a transition out of this life and into the next. But we were sure that we wanted to be with her as much as possible. We were supported by a palliative care nurse called Anne, who came in every few days to help us. She taught us the practicalities, but she only gave us enough information that we needed. Take your time, she said. Do what you feel is necessary. Say what you need to say. I thought, well, what does that mean? I don't know what to say. And yet, by her quietly being in the background, she gave me the courage to say all the things that I needed to say, because she was holding me while I was holding my mum. In the 2 years since, I've often thought about Anne and the important role she played in our lives. She was much more than what her label on her uniform was. She was a facilitator, a coach, and a guide. By offering non-judgmental support and guidance, she helped us walk a difficult journey. She held the space in a way that it was only afterwards that I could see what she had done for us. Words by Heather Plett. We will now enter a period of quiet reflection. After the ripples of shuffling, of coughing, sighing and rustling, and that's just me, we get to a place where we can feel finally comfortable. So please do whatever you need to do to get yourself into a space to receive the gifts of silence. As we sit together, there is nothing more to do. Nothing needs to be done. We are all being held in this space, in this moment, by something far greater than we could possibly imagine. We feel the sacredness of silence spreading through the church, online, and beyond. So let us sit for a couple of minutes together in deep silence. So what is this thing, holding space? What does it even mean? Is it just a new word for being with somebody else? I discovered a book called The Art of Holding Space. Heather Plett talks about it being what we do when we walk alongside a person or a group on a journey through that liminal space of not knowing. We do it by just being, without trying to fix them or impact the outcome. We open our hearts and offer unconditional support and let go of judgment and control. Well, that all sounds very straightforward, not, and an incredibly big ask. How difficult it is to just be with things as they are, offering a space and comfort to somebody else. We all perhaps want to find an answer. We all perhaps want somebody to feel better. I know the answer. If you just do this, this, and this, it will be so much better. And yet, how would it be if we just allowed each other to be, but quietly in the background, we hold them in our hearts. As we heard in the earlier readings, there's often that time when we think, what do we do? I haven't got the words, I haven't got the energy, I haven't got the formula book that tells me what to do. And after reading some of this book, it doesn't give you the answers either. Does it mean that we have to be physically there, stroking someone's brow or holding their hand? So many people are holding this space this morning. Not less those who are busily, frantically holding the tech. Thank you. But those who have cleaned our space, those who provide us with gas and light and electricity, those who bring flowers, those of all of us who have come to this space online or in the church, we all hold space for each other. It's so easy to think that it's one person's job. There is something in the hospice movement which is called the holding bowl. They use it as an analogy to help people, not only families, but people they're looking after. Sometimes people find it difficult to make those transitions. So what they talk about is a holding bowl. It can be a physical bowl or something that you make up in your mind, but you put the broken pieces in the bowl and you hold that space for that person. It may not be about somebody dying. We could be holding that bowl for somebody who's going through a transition, a career change, a divorce. They may have just had a car accident. They may be somebody who's just fallen over in the street. It may be a coming out or a faith-shaking moment when somebody has that confusion. What do I believe? Do I believe in anything at all? It could be when somebody is questioning their identity. They explained it like Lego. Hopefully all of you have had some experience of Lego. I know I did as a child. It all starts off extremely well together, and then you open the box and it all flies out, and then there's Lego all over the floor. And often in houses with children, especially friends of mine, they often have a box and all the Lego goes back in the box. Sometimes it's very, very methodical, and there's a blue box and a yellow box and a green box and a purple box, but most of the time it's just one big box and it all gets thrown in. And that box holds the Lego until the kids are ready to build something else. It's all there. All that they need is in the bowl to make a magic dinosaur monster or a mechanical car. Some of us may have that magic holding bowl that holds our keys and our cards and our masks and all the other stuff that we need in order to function on our daily lives. It may not be a bowl, it could be a hook, but there's somewhere where we put all that stuff that helps us to manage our lives. Sometimes we don't use all the things that are in the bowl. They're all there, but we forget to put our hand in. We don't take the help that is needed. We don't hold space for ourselves because we're so busy trying to hold space for somebody else. Your individual bowl of holding will look very different. Some of you will have a very practical bowl, literally. Pens, lighters, message books, phones, dog leads, biscuits. Oh no, I can't say that because they're asleep behind me. Some people may have a different bowl filled with all sorts of different things, medications, but it's a place that can help you feel like, oh yes, all that I need is there. So how would it be if we had a spiritual bowl where everything in that bowl was what we needed in order to lead a spiritual life? Our prayers, maybe our yoga exercises, if we do them or not. Our questions. A symbol that may help us to remind us we're not on our own. It may be all the people in this congregation. Metaphorically, of course. It'd be difficult to create a bowl where we could all climb in together, but that's a service for another day, or maybe a practical service. But so often we run on self-reliance. How would it be if before we began our day or began to do something that was difficult, we reached our hand into our own holding bowl? It's very simplistic. We do it with our practical things. But how would it be if we had that bowl for our spiritual nourishment? Here we have. So what I want you to do in the next just couple of moments really is to imagine what you would put into your spiritual bowl, your holding bowl. But when things are difficult, or even when they're joyful, what could you imagine reaching in and taking out to support your own spirituality. So I'm just going to hold this for a moment and for you to think about the things that you would like to put in your bowl. I'm going to tell you a little quick story about how I use this metaphorically, just in relationship to coming to Plymouth. I was hoping and praying that I would be able to be with you this weekend. It was looking like a 50-50 at the beginning of the week. I thought, yes, maybe. If I don't do that, maybe I can make it. But sometimes things don't work out as well as that you wish. There I was on Friday morning, knowing deep in my heart that I couldn't do a journey and a B&B and all the rest that comes with traveling. I so wanted the story to be different. I didn't want to use what was in this bowl. I was manufacturing another bowl that was push on through. The other bowl had my tickets, my phone, my suitcase, my painkillers, all the rest of the other stuff that goes wherever you go. But this bowl had something different. This bowl had a dear friend in it who knows me very well. It had rest. It had sleep. It had beautiful podcasts. It had what I choose to call God. Eventually, I put my hand in, and out came the phone number of my fellow. She listened. That's what she did. She held space and she listened. And she said to me, what's the most loving and kind thing you can do, not just for yourself, but for everyone else? How can you hold space for yourself and for everyone else? And in that moment, the answer was crystal clear. To be able to hold space for myself and for you, it was to use all of the things that were in here and to let all the other practicalities of holding space in the other bowl go. But I had to go through that space, that process to get to that position. What a gift for somebody to be able to hold space for me to come to those decisions. That's what we do in spiritual community. We give people a sacred space to discover, to rediscover, to come back to ourselves, to rest, to switch off even. We may even be holding space for someone to have a little sleep. I had a congregant who slept all the way through a service of 2 weeks ago, and he said, I'm so sorry. I said, I'm so delighted. How are you feeling now? Much better. I'm sure many of us have held space in many difficult situations. Sometimes we feel so incredibly inadequate. I haven't got what it takes. I don't know what to say. But actually, there's very little to say and very little to do. Most of us just want to be heard. or given a hug, or a smile, or a cup of tea, or a biscuit, or a prayer. When I first started my ministry training, someone said to me, "You're not going towards this pinnacle of being a minister because you minister every day and so does everybody else." It was good advice. It brought me really down to earth and continues to do so, because we all minister to each other. And I believe that we all have the capacity to hold space for each other in a beautiful and simplistic way. But it is about returning to this holding bowl. And if we don't attend to our own spiritual needs, what happens is the bowl gets empty. So coming to church, sitting, watching the birds, having a cup of tea, them not having a cup of tea, although they might be if you feed them tea. Taking that space, holding our own space before we can hold space for others. It takes a lot of courage to walk through the doors of a church. I remember doing it many years ago. What did I want? I wanted to belong. I wanted to find somewhere where I could be myself. I didn't want a cup of tea. I didn't want a leaflet. But I did want to be with others. And that's what we do here. We give people an opportunity to come for a rest. The church in Plymouth is a huge holding bowl for many of you. And I hope will continue to be so for many years to come. What I've learned is this holding space is not rocket science. It's very similar to so many things that have been said time and time and time before. But actually, when we revisit these ideas, we gain something slightly different. The image of this bowl may be really helpful for some of you and may be a complete waste of time for some others of you. The box of the Lego may work much better. So I invite you in the coming days and weeks to create a vision, a picture, words of what that bowl might be for you and what you would put in it. So that when you're needing to hold space for yourself, or when you are faced with somebody in congregation or in community, you can grab something from that bowl. And even if we forget all of the tools, the most important one is about just being present with someone else. Because often there are no words. It's just being with. I'm aware that this is my last formal inverted commas service for you all, and but I will be back. Well, I hope I'll be back. And I hope that I can have a service fairly soon to be able to be with you in person and hug you and eat cake and drink tea. The music that I chose at the beginning of this service, who knows where the time goes? Well, it's true. It's just gone like that. I remember me and Kate had a cup of tea last summer, I think it was, or was it even the summer before? I can't remember now. And, you know, and I'm just so grateful for your love and your warmth and your generosity and your sharing of your lives with me, and that you have created a holding space for me to be with you, to give service to you, and to learn. And you've been incredibly patient, even when I've come up with the most bizarre ideas. And they're like, oh, it's a student. She's doing that thing. She's a ministry student. I'm deeply grateful for your love and help and support. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for holding space for me. And thank you for allowing me to hold space for you. We sing our final hymn together, number 44, and it's Give Thanks for Life. Holy One, we call by many names, and sometimes by no name at all. Surround us with love and compassion, with comfort and strength. Remind us that there is no place we can go that you have not already been. May we speak your truth when we are called. When we hold space well, we serve the liberation and sovereignty of all people. May you go in love, in peace, in generosity, and in hope and may you allow others to hold space for you as you do so too. Amen and blessed be.